Welcome to the Art of Pilates. I'm Louise Taube, principal trainer. I am a studio owner and a Pilates teacher, and I train teachers as well. If you'd like to connect with me, you can visit my website for teachers at taubepilates.com. If you're wanting to check out my studio, it's louisetaubepilates.com. And if there's a topic on the podcast that you'd love to hear about, please let me know.
Kimberley, so great to have you here on the Art of Pilates. Can you tell us about your Anatomy of Presence, your little mini conference coming up for Pilates practitioners?
Well, thanks for having me, Louise. I'm excited to be here. And it was really lovely to put a face with your name at the Pilates Journal conference as well. Yeah, we are super excited. We really enjoy bringing our industry together here, either in the studio, but this year we're actually doing it on the beach, down at Byron Bay, out of the surf club, and we're super excited. And it's actually going to have many different presenters there, but it's called the Anatomy of Presence, and we're referring to it as a practitioner pilgrimage. So it will be from the Friday lunchtime through till the Sunday. It's hosted with beautiful organic food, as well as, obviously, as I said, a lot of movement. And it's not just Pilates. We also are bringing in a little bit of yoga. We have a naturopath, and I will be presenting, but it's on the 26th till the 28th of June.
June coming up. A tax deduction for the end of the financial year.
Correct, yes.
And also getting out of freezing Melbourne during that time. Byron Bay is so beautiful. I've never been, but I've always wanted to go.
Now, there's lots of walks and it's right on the beach. So even at that time of the year, you can still have a dip in the ocean, and a fabulous way to really open up your brain for learning.
Fantastic. So, Kimberley, your movement journey began in classical ballet with icons like Marilyn Jones and Garth Welsh. What did ballet teach you that still lives in your Pilates teaching today?
I think every ballet dancer you speak to will refer to discipline. And I think in a learning journey of any sort, that discipline's always going to come into the forefront of your learning journey. But we also have that want for movement in our own bodies. We know how good movement feels, and we also understand when movement is incorrect in your body, how debilitating that can feel in your body. So you can really resonate with a lot of clients through different experiences that they're having. We also love the idea of choreography. We love bringing classes together, experimentation, and that want to understand how the body can do more. So it's always pressing and opening that envelope and just getting a little bit more out of our bodies. And I think that would be all dancers of all sorts of genre.
Wow. And at the Anatomy of Presence, what are you specifically going to be teaching there? Because I really
Well,
loved the session that you took at the Pilates Journal Expo. I just thought, oh my God, I just want to go where you are and just do private sessions with you because you're so amazing. So what will you be teaching? What's your workshop focus going to be?
Well, I'm actually putting 3 together at the moment, and I'm kind of where we will actually have our final choices by the end of this week. So I will definitely be doing a 2 to 3 hour workshop as well as movement classes.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. I can't wait. So you've studied human movement, nutrition, and a wide range of holistic modalities. How do all of these threads weave together in your approach to movement?
No, I feel this is very important for everybody that's coming into this journey, like quite new, and or if you've been into it for a long time but haven't expanded and looked beyond the horizons of Pilates. Every modality that you add into your educational process is going to then be another form of whether it's actually how you cue or whether it's actually another a type of movement. So everything from yoga and qigong that I have done through to kinesiology, NLP, life coaching. I'm actually doing a pathokinesiology course at the moment. So I am one of those people who is just continuously wanting to learn more, because the body is the never-ending jigsaw puzzle, and science is giving us that amazing awareness how we can get a little deeper into the learning journey. And every person that comes into my space, no matter where I am, whether I'm teaching here at Northern Rivers Pilates or at a conference, my objective is to be able to have them move better than when I met them. The only way that I can do that is bringing everything I know and putting it into a nice hot pot and then delivering that.
Fantastic. So you've always asked why. How important is curiosity and critical thinking in Pilates education today?
Everything. It is everything. If you are going to let's even look at footwork. Okay, let's look at the very basic movement of footwork on the reformer. If you're just thinking of this as a movement of the carriage or bending and straightening the knees, you're missing every concept behind it. So the curiosity for me is looking at the human that is on that piece of equipment and how their feet are positioned. Do I need to then put pressure of the foot bar here at the base of the heel? Or do I need to actually challenge more up at the metatarsals and think about how they're spreading their toes about? Or am I looking more at the pelvis and how the pelvis is actually relating to that spring tension as they extend out? So if the curiosity ends at knowing the breath in and the breath out of the movement pattern, you're going to miss so many of the most important components and steps for that client to move better into functional movement.
Wow. So, with so many new teachers entering the industry, what foundations do you believe are non negotiable?
Okay, education, number one. So, completely non negotiable is ensure that you are going to research whom you're doing your initial education with and that it aligns with where you want to go. I'm not saying that any one education body is better than the other. It depends on what type of career you are looking for within this industry. So I think education is the absolute priority. And that is something that it wouldn't matter what industry you are working in. If you're choosing to have that degree and then that's all you're going to take with you into the next steps of your career, you're actually going to stay here. I have a daughter who is a lawyer and I have a daughter who is a Pilates practitioner. All of them on a continual learning curve. And sometimes it's like a bell curve. Sometimes it's going to be your education is the priority, or another times it's going to be life's the priority. So I'm not saying that you have to constantly do it at a high level, but if your education ever lacks, you're going to notice that you get bored.
That's
Mm.
interesting. Because that's one thing I was thinking, oh, if your education lacks, that's one thing that I wouldn't be thinking. But yeah, that does make a lot of sense. You would get bored if you're not being stimulated with new ideas, new ways of thinking of things, new concepts. So you
Mm.
completed your Polestar qualification in 2003 and have been an educator since 2004 and now a senior educator. What has kept you inspired within the Polestar community for over 2 decades?
I think because a little bit how my brain works. So I'll give a little bit of backstory to that as well. So prior to finding Polestar, I actually had done many other forms of education of Pilates and was still searching for that type of, and I also have my own RTO. So it was called the Pilates Room. And I trained, and there's many people, even at the conference that we were just at, that came up and said, you actually taught me my very first mat course 28 years ago. And they're still in the industry. So that is just super cool that people whom I taught that long ago are still there. But through that journey, I was still always searching for a belonging in an industry that at that time was fairly new. And I knew that there was so much for me to know to be able to deliver the best I could. And I was very, very fortunate at one of the gyms that I was teaching at, because I worked a lot in gyms. I also even went on Oz aerobics. Was spin class, pump person. I've done all of that as well. And there was the particular gym that I was working at had bought some reformers. and happened to know Shelley Powers and had Shelley Powers out in Australia. Shelley Powers then just came and spent 2 days with me on my own. So I was extremely fortunate. And, the cues she used and the thought process behind every single movement, I was like, this is what I've been looking for. At that time, I'd never heard of pulse up. I remember her saying one of the cues that I still use to this day was ensure that every movement is creating space through the vertebral column. It was so simple, and I still use it all the time. And it's about creating space, and it's not then just in the vertebral column, it's in every joint. And I asked her about her training and what had she done, and she mentioned Brent, and all of these names were brand new to me. Then a year later, the Polestar Pilates course was running, and I was actually at UTS doing the Pilates training through UTS at that time. And I was like, okay, I'm still looking for what I want. So I actually I was doing the 2 courses at the same time, and also happened to be pregnant at the same time. So everything was, with my 3rd child. So everything was going crazy. And that's when I met Brent Anderson, Doug Cohen, and Kat Gianito. And everybody was on this first cohort of teaching, and they opened my eyes. And back then it was like, you're writing down everything and you're drawing your little stick figures to figure out what it is. But their vocabulary spoke to me like no other vocabulary had. And since then, I had my own, as I mentioned, I had my own RTO at the time. And then they asked whether I would be interested in joining their team and whether I would be able to give up my own RTO to join them. And obviously it was a big thought process, but to be honest, it was a bit of a no-brainer because anybody that's had an RTO knows the quantity of work for you to be able to meet the markers to be able to be government registered. It's a lot of work. And to then have somewhere that I can grow with and develop further, it was a no-brainer. It was like Polestar felt like a glove slipping on, and it's just stuck and fit. Yeah. I play a deeper role with them now. I am their educator trainer. So anybody that's going through as assistant educator or educator, actually I do workshops with them and continually have a support process for the educator team. And Jo Bazina is that same, like we call it a development management role. And she's the same role for the mentors. So they have an extremely phenomenal structure that supports the entire process as it grows. And we were just lucky to be there right at the beginning.
Oh, wow.
A quick word from our sponsor, Taube Pilates. If you're a Pilates teacher and you're working with active aging clients, then my Pilates for Active Aging course might be exactly what you're looking for. It is fully online and self-paced. There are 13 modules, 42 lessons. You can work through them at your own time, wherever you are in the world. You'll also have lifetime access, which means you can keep coming back as your teaching evolves. It is recognised with 15 PDPs from the Pilates Association of Australia, and there are teachers all over the world already doing this work. And as a listener to this podcast, you will get 25% off with the code Live Longer 25. Just head to Taube Pilates to find out more.
And how has Pilates education changed since you first started training teachers? And what has remained timeless?
Good questions. So I'm going to start with the timeless. So first, is that okay, Louise?
Yep, go for it.
So obviously, I think what is timeless is that recognition of Joseph Pilates and understanding the method, of having that respect for the foundation of what was developed. And I am forever fascinated by this man whom it would have been amazing to meet, because his brain obviously just thought so outside of the box to create everything that he did, whether it was actually when he was on the Isle of Man and thinking of springs then to create into the trap table to assist blood flow, right through to developing a wonder chair from his armchair at home. The stories fascinate me. Everything from the fact that he was a boxer but ended up working with dancers. So I think that is timeless. And unless you know his story, his return to life, I cannot tell you how many times I have read that. Then when I think about what has changed, I often think, oh gosh, some of the things I used to teach. And I'm just like, almost go, oh, you have that cringe moment of like, oh, I used to say that. I used to do that. I used to be that. And I think as science has given us a little more leeway of understanding how the body moves and the respect that everybody is different. So now when somebody walks into my studio, I'm very much looking at them as an individual and respecting them as an individual. Where before I was so young, like I was teaching at 23 and I could turn myself inside out and back to front and now I look back and go, "Oh, I wish I could do that." So I think as you age, you do have that understanding that everything isn't that simple. So there's that aspect to, I guess, age gives you respect for everybody that walks into your room. But science has given us the respect and understanding that everybody is different and we have to listen to what is happening on the day rather than assuming that that exercise was right for you yesterday, Louise. Why isn't it right for you today? But you may have gone and gardened for 8 hours. And so, therefore, a loaded flexion for you today is actually going to be quite detrimental. Where yesterday you were like going, oh, that feels amazing. So it's about having the instinct to ask questions and respect for them on the day.
So you founded and ran the Pilates Room as a nationally recognised training organisation, which is just huge. So what did that chapter teach you about leadership in education?
That you want to bring in people around you that are also going to support that process. So I ended up with a really good training faculty with me. And I think that's number one, that you don't have to do it all on your own. And then having a good support staff within the office to ensure that the finer details aren't forgotten. And your delivery has to be you're there for the right purpose and you want to share the knowledge. You don't need to hold it in tight. Everything you know has to be willing to spill for your students.
So you led the Pilates Mastership Mentorship Program. What do you see as the biggest gaps for teachers once they've completed their initial certification? And do you still offer this program?
Yeah, we are still offering this program. It keeps growing, to be honest, Louise. I initially did it just because we had students that I would meet and then they just kept saying, is there any way we can do a mentorship? Is there? And I just kept getting asked, can we do it? Can we do it? Can we do it? And people were traveling. Like, honestly, I have had people come from Hong Kong and Singapore, Perth and Melbourne and Sydney, and they come and spend 2 weeks just in the studio and then they leave, but then there is that lack of contact afterwards. So I gave it a little trial just for 5 people. And what it was is we'd do a one-on-one and I'd do a little workshop and then we have contact through email and I set up goals and we have a little WhatsApp group, etc. And then I kept getting more people to ask and those 5 people didn't want to leave. So it kept growing. So we've capped it at 15 people. And the way it runs now is that I've also brought in my team here at Northern Rivers Pilates. And obviously, our staff training is very regular here. So they're getting constant training from me. And my staff, honestly, I would put them up there with the best in the world. They are amazing and they have a lot to share. So we still have that running. Now, the question about what is missing, I think a lot of the time people, especially if you're regional or if you have a studio on your own, you feel a lot on your own and you want to bounce ideas off. We've got 7 staff in my studio here, so it's very rare for a staff member here to ever work on their own. So they're always being able to kind of even having that familiarity of someone around you and then going, oh, wow, I haven't done that exercise for ages. Isn't that great? And just watching how clients develop. So when you're working on your own, you don't have that outward kind of nurture around you. Like it's almost like you've got a hug around you all the time, working with you all the time. And if you're on your own, you don't have that. Then we also have the other end that we've got business owners. We have someone at the moment that is from Switzerland on the program. And we've also got someone that's from Singapore and also from Bali. And they've got their own studios with quite a lot of staff on there. And then we're talking about the management of staff and helping them develop workshops. We've got people on the program that have been teaching for 25 years. They're developing their own workshops. So I've been helping people develop their workshops. So everything's very individual. But the workshops that I do online, everybody comes on or they watch the recordings of it.
And so you place strong emphasis on communication. Why is how we speak and cue just as important as what exercises that we choose?
If your language isn't matching the person that's on the bed, the exercise is not going to be absorbed. So even from, I don't know, have you ever heard of Myers-Briggs, Louise? Myers-Briggs
Yes.
personality profiling. So many moons ago, I used to do motivational presenting and was a Myers-Briggs trainer as well. And we learned to kind of read the room and read the people as they come into the room. And then you develop the skills on communication according to the personality that's there in front of you. So that sounds like a lot of information, but you can tell just by simple postures. So if someone walks in and they're a bit like this, if you talk to them the way their posture is going to go even further and further down. What you'll be able to do is your energy has to bring their posture back up. So the type of praise ideally you're getting from your clients is, I came in feeling so flat, but you've made me feel so much uplifted and I feel really ready and energized for my day. So it's not about matching their posture or their mood, but it's about having that kind of that conversation with the conduits and the synapses and saying, we can divert that energy into a better product and a better outcome for you. So sometimes if someone comes in really down, if you only do stretching, you're feeding it. So you want to find a way to kind of get that energy into them. And then the language has to be everything from your tone and your delivery to the language that you use. It wants to be enticing and light. You may use less technical cues on those days. And then you might have someone that comes in and they're really heightened and really frazzled. So then you're going to change your vocabulary to a calmer and more intent and think about and use the words like heavy and focus on your breath. And so reading your client and delivering according to how you want them to leave. You want that person that's come in really heightened to leave feeling calm. And I have a client at the moment and her son is going through leukemia and it's really bad. It's not a great outcome. And she is running around and she comes in sometimes and she has her own business and she's managing so many balls in the air and her energy is so heightened. And then what we do is we'll do a bottom loaded and we kind of bring her down and you hear it. You hear her through the session. Oh, like it's just the entire sympathetic nervous system is like that vagus nerve is just going, I'm okay, I'm settled, I'm ready. And halfway through, you feel the energy shift and then you take her back into a different journey.
Wow. And how can teachers develop confidence and authenticity without feeling like they need to perform or copy others?
I'm so glad you brought this up. So I was listening to a little podcast that it was on social media. And I want to put out there, if you've got an amazing body and you can move beautifully, you be proud of that. That's number one. Okay. I really begrudge people saying, oh, but they're in their little tops and their little shorts and they're doing everything fancy. You know what? That confidence to be able to wear that, to move like that is come because they've actually put the hard yards into their Pilates initially to be there. So that's number one. Then your authenticity is be you. So if you are that person that can rock that outfit, you be that. And if that doesn't feel right for you, you don't have to be that. If you are there with honesty, you're already authentic. Just ask yourself why you are doing this career. So my youngest daughter, she's only 22, and the amount of times she hears people say, I think I'm just going to become a Pilates instructor because they envisage a certain life. And I always say to her, ask them why. Ask them why they want to become a Pilates instructor. Now, to believe it or not, I would say 6 to 7 times out of 10 is because I just want that lifestyle of I go and do a class and then I go to the beach and then I go and do this. And if that is the reason behind it, you aren't being authentic to yourself. Go and participate in Pilates, but actually teaching Pilates is a lot of hard work. So your authenticity is going to actually be out the window because you're not being authentic to why you're being there. But if your reason is that you want to bring freedom of movement to someone to enjoy life, then you have a career in Pilates.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for listening to Art of Pilates. I'm your host, Louise Taube, principal trainer as recognised with the PAA, studio owner and Pilates teacher. To stay connected, please subscribe to my mailing list via my website, taubepilates.com. And if you've loved this show, please give me a review. I'd love a Facebook review or a Google review. It really helps to support me and my business and this podcast. See you next time and keep moving with intention.